Nathan Sterling stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Seattle mansion, watching the rain cascade down the glass like silver tears. At 36, he had everything money could buy. His tech company, Sterling Innovations, had revolutionized cloud security systems, making him one of the youngest billionaires in the Pacific Northwest. The mansion sprawled across 5 acres of prime waterfront property, a modern masterpiece of glass, steel, and stone that architectural magazines called a triumph of design. But Nathan knew the truth. It was a beautiful cage. After his fiancée Jennifer had left him 3 years ago, taking with her not just his heart, but also his company's secrets to sell to a competitor, Nathan had rebuilt his empire with one guiding principle: trust no one. The betrayal had cut so deep that he surrounded himself with technology instead of people. His security system was legendary, with cameras monitoring every corner of the property, motion sensors tracking every movement, and AI systems analyzing every anomaly. His assistant, Margaret Chen, a practical woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and reading glasses perpetually perched on her nose, was one of the few people allowed into his inner circle. She managed his household staff with quiet efficiency, understanding that Nathan preferred minimal human interaction. The cleaning crew came when he was away. The chef prepared meals that were left in warming drawers. Even the gardeners worked on schedules designed to avoid any chance encounters. But Margaret had insisted on hiring Claire Morgan for the overnight deep cleaning position. The regular crew had missed too many details, and Margaret believed in giving opportunities to people who truly needed them. Nathan had agreed without much thought, as long as the new hire passed the extensive background check and understood the confidentiality agreements. A mother's determination, Claire Morgan pushed her cleaning cart through the silent hallways of the Sterling mansion, still marveling at the sheer size of the place. At 28, she had learned that life rarely went according to plan. She had married her high school sweetheart, believing in fairy tales and forever. But when their daughter Mia was born with a congenital heart condition requiring expensive treatments, her husband had walked away, unable to handle the pressure and medical bills. For the past 7 years, Claire had been both mother and father to Mia. She worked 3 jobs to cover the medical expenses that insurance barely touched. During the day, she was a receptionist at a dental office. In the evenings, she waited tables at a diner. And now, 3 nights a week from midnight to 6 a.m., she deep cleaned the Sterling mansion. The pay was generous, and Margaret had promised that health benefits would kick in after 3 months. Those benefits could mean better specialists for Mia. Perhaps even the surgery her cardiologist had mentioned. Claire had chin length, auburn hair that she kept tied back while working, and green eyes that still held warmth despite years of struggle. She moved through the mansion with quiet respect, treating every object as if it were precious. The art on the walls, the furniture that probably cost more than she made in a year, the technology that seemed straight out of science fiction films, all of it amazed her, but none of it intimidated her. She had learned that dignity came from within, not from possessions. Tonight, she was cleaning the 3rd-floor study, a room lined with bookshelves and dominated by a massive desk facing the windows. Margaret had mentioned that Mr. Sterling rarely used this room anymore, preferring his main office on the opposite wing. As Claire dusted the shelves, she noticed a framed photograph tucked between books. A younger Nathan with a beautiful woman, both laughing at some shared joke. There was a lightness in his eyes that seemed absent from the distant man she had glimpsed once in passing. The moment everything changed, Claire had been warned about the security cameras. They were everywhere, Margaret had explained, part of Mr. Sterling's need for complete awareness of his property. Claire understood. Rich people had reasons to be cautious. She made sure to be professional at all times, never snooping, never touching anything unnecessarily. But tonight, disaster struck in the most ordinary way. As she reached to dust a high shelf near the window, her water bottle slipped from her cart. The cap had loosened during her break, and water splashed across her uniform, soaking through to her skin. The white blouse she wore under her gray work vest became completely transparent. Claire looked around the empty study. It was 3 a.m., Mr. Sterling was surely asleep in his private wing on the opposite side of the mansion. Margaret had mentioned he was an early sleeper and late riser. The nearest staff bathroom was 2 floors down, and she had a spare uniform in her cart. She moved quickly to the corner of the room. Behind a tall bookshelf that provided privacy from the door, she worked efficiently, unbuttoning the wet uniform, wringing out her blouse, and reaching for the dry clothes in her bag. It took less than 2 minutes. She never thought about the camera positioned discreetly in the corner, its lens capturing everything. The weight of truth for floors below in his bedroom, Nathan suffered from his usual insomnia. He sat in bed with his tablet, reviewing security footage as he did most nights, checking perimeters, making sure his fortress remained secure. It was obsessive, he knew. But after Jennifer's betrayal, he found sleep came easier when he knew every detail of his surroundings. He was scrolling through the 3rd floor camera feeds when his screen showed the study. His finger froze over the tablet. There was Claire, changing her clothes behind the bookshelf. The camera angle captured everything despite her attempt at privacy. Nathan immediately locked the tablet and set it down, his heart pounding. He felt sick. The cameras were meant to protect his property, not violate the privacy of an employee who believed she was alone. Claire had done nothing wrong. She was dealing with an accident during her work, believing she had privacy in an empty room at 3 a.m. For the next hour, Nathan sat in the darkness, wrestling with his conscience. He could simply delete the footage and never mention it. Claire would never know. But that felt cowardly, dishonest. She deserved to know what had happened, deserved the choice of how to respond. As dawn broke over the Seattle skyline, Nathan made a decision that would change both their lives. He would tell her the truth. Nathan barely slept after making his decision. By 8 a.m., he was dressed in casual clothes, dark jeans, and a simple gray sweater, rather than his usual business attire. He found Margaret in the kitchen, overseeing the morning preparations that he normally never witnessed. "Margaret, I need to speak with Claire Morgan today," Nathan said, his voice steady despite his nervous energy. "Can you ask her to come to the sunroom at 2 p.m.? Margaret looked up from her tablet, surprise flickering across her face. In 3 years of managing the household, Nathan had never requested a meeting with any staff member. "Is there a problem with her work? Because I can assure you, she's been exceptional." "No problem at all," Nathan said quickly. "There's something important I need to discuss with her personally. Please make sure she knows this isn't about job performance." Margaret studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I'll let her know." When Claire received the message that morning after finishing her shift, her stomach dropped. Despite Margaret's reassurance, she immediately worried she had done something wrong. Had she moved something she shouldn't have? Broken some unspoken rule? She desperately needed this job. Mia's next cardiology appointment was in 2 weeks, and the copay alone would strain her already tight budget. Claire arrived at the mansion at exactly 2 p.m., having changed from her work uniform into a simple blue dress that she usually reserved for parent-teacher conferences. Her hands trembled slightly as Margaret led her through corridors she had only cleaned in the quiet hours of night. In daylight, the mansion was even more breathtaking. The sunroom was a circular space with glass walls offering panoramic views of Puget Sound. Comfortable furniture was arranged around a low table, and the afternoon light created patterns on the polished floor. Nathan stood by the windows, his back to the door, and turned when he heard them enter. "Thank you, Margaret," he said softly. "We'll be fine." After Margaret left, an awkward silence filled the room. Claire stood near the door, unsure whether to sit or remain standing. Nathan gestured to the chairs. "Please, Claire, sit down. Would you like coffee or tea?" "Water is fine, thank you," Claire said quietly, settling on the edge of a chair. Her heart pounded as she watched Nathan pour water from a crystal pitcher. His movements careful and deliberate. Unexpected honesty. Ethan sat across from her, and Claire was struck by how different he looked from the distant figure she had glimpsed before. Up close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the vulnerability in his expression. This was not the face of a man about to fire an employee. This was the face of someone carrying a heavy burden. "I asked you here because something happened last night that you need to know about." Nathan began, his gray eyes meeting hers directly. Around 3 a.m. you were cleaning the third-floor study. You had an accident with your water bottle. Claire's face flushed as understanding dawned. Oh no, the camera. I thought I was alone. I didn't mean to be unprofessional. Stop, Nathan said firmly, but gently. You did nothing wrong? You were dealing with an accident in what you reasonably believed was a private moment. The fault is entirely mine. He leaned forward, his expression intense. I was reviewing security footage, and I saw what happened. I immediately closed the feed and deleted it. No copies exist anywhere in the system. I've also had that particular camera repositioned to respect privacy better. Claire stared at him, processing this information. She had expected anger, perhaps dismissal. Instead, she found something she never anticipated: genuine remorse and respect. You deleted it? Of course I did, Nathan said. The cameras are meant to protect property, not violate the dignity of people who work here. I should have considered situations like this when designing the system. I'm sorry, Claire. You deserved better protection of your privacy. Tears welled in Claire's eyes, but not from shame or anger. She was overwhelmed by the simple decency of his response. In her experience, powerful people rarely admitted fault or showed concern for those they considered beneath them. Thank you, she whispered. That means more than you know. Building bridges, Nathan felt something shift in his chest at her tears. When was the last time someone had thanked him with such genuine emotion? I want you to know that you're welcome to continue working here if you choose, he continued. But I would understand completely if you'd rather not. Margaret can provide excellent references if you decide to seek employment elsewhere. Claire wiped her eyes and looked at him with unexpected strength. Mr. Sterling, you made a mistake with your security system, but you handled it with honesty and respect. That tells me more about your character than the mistake itself. I'd like to stay, if that's acceptable. It's more than acceptable, Nathan said, feeling genuine relief. And please, call me Nathan. Mr. Sterling makes me feel like I'm at a board meeting. Small smile tugged at Claire's lips. Only if you stop looking so worried. You look like you expect me to call a lawyer, Nathan laughed, and the sound surprised him. When was the last time he had genuinely laughed? That did cross my mind, he admitted. You would have every right. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the tension that had filled the room dissipating like morning fog. Nathan found himself curious about this woman who had responded to a difficult situation with such grace. Margaret mentioned you have a daughter. Claire's entire face lit up at the mention of her child. Mia, she's 7, going on 17 according to her opinions about everything. She pulled out her phone and showed him a photo of a little girl with auburn curls and a gap-toothed smile. She's my whole world. Nathan studied the photo, seeing the same warmth in the child's eyes that he saw in Claire's. She looks like you. Poor thing, Claire joked, then grew more serious. She has some health challenges, but she's the bravest person I know. Everything I do is for her. Tell me about her, Nathan said. Genuinely interested. Claire talked about Mia's love of books, her obsession with sea otters, her determination to become a marine biologist despite her health limitations. As she spoke, Nathan found himself drawn into her world, so different from his own. Here was someone who measured wealth not in dollars but in moments, in smiles, in the everyday miracles of watching a child grow. What about you? Claire asked, emboldened by his openness. This mansion is beautiful, but it feels lonely. Nathan was taken aback by her directness, but found himself answering honestly. It is lonely. I built walls after someone I trusted betrayed me. I thought isolation would keep me safe. He looked around the sunroom. Instead, I just created a very expensive prison. Claire nodded, understanding in her eyes. My ex-husband left when things got hard with Mia's health. I built walls too, just different kinds. But Mia teaches me every day that walls keep out the bad things, but they also keep out the good things. An unexpected connection. They talked for over an hour, the conversation flowing naturally from topic to topic. Nathan told her about his company, about the technology he loved creating, about his parents who had died in a sailing accident when he was 25. Claire shared stories of working multiple jobs, of the community of other struggling parents who helped each other survive, of the small joys that made hard days bearable, when Margaret knocked softly to remind Nathan of his 4 p.m. conference call. Both of them were surprised at how much time had passed. Claire stood to leave, smoothing her dress nervously. "Thank you for your honesty today, Nathan. It means more than you know." "Thank you for giving me a chance to do the right thing," Nathan replied. "And Claire, if you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to ask Margaret." "I mean that." Claire nodded, not quite believing such an offer could be genuine, but grateful nonetheless. As she left the sunroom, Nathan stood by the windows, watching her walk across the grounds toward the staff entrance. Something had shifted in him during their conversation. The walls he had built so carefully had developed their first crack. Surprisingly, he found himself hoping it would widen. Over the following weeks, Nathan did something unprecedented. He began timing his morning routines to occasionally cross paths with Claire. A greeting in the hallway became brief conversations. He learned that she loved mystery novels, but never had time to read them. That she dreamed of taking Mia to see the ocean-tide pools but couldn't afford the time off work. That she had a dry sense of humor that made him laugh in ways he hadn't in years. Margaret noticed the change in her employer. Nathan smiled more, seemed less isolated, actually engaged with the world around him. When she mentioned it to him, he simply said, "Sometimes it takes another person's courage to remind you how to be brave." The walls around Nathan Sterling's heart were beginning to crumble, brick. 3 months after their first real conversation, Nathan had established a routine he looked forward to more than any business meeting. Every Thursday morning, he and Claire would have coffee in the sunroom before she finished her shift. They talked about everything from philosophy to the best pizza toppings. Nathan found himself sharing thoughts and feelings he had locked away for years. And Claire opened up about her fears for Mia's future, her exhaustion from juggling multiple jobs. Her small victories that kept her going. Margaret had noticed the change in the household dynamic. Nathan was warmer with the staff, more present in his own home. He had even started having dinner in the dining room instead of eating alone in his office. The fortress was becoming a home. But on a Tuesday morning in late November, everything changed. Nathan was in his office reviewing quarterly reports when Margaret burst in without knocking, her face pale with worry. "Nathan, I just got a call from the emergency contact number Claire left. Her daughter Mia collapsed at school. They've taken her to Seattle Children's Hospital." Nathan was on his feet immediately. "Which hospital?" "Get my driver." "Nathan, you don't have to," Margaret began. "Which hospital?" he repeated, his voice brooking no argument. 20 minutes later, Nathan walked into the emergency department of Seattle Children's Hospital, a place he had never been before. He found Claire in a waiting room, still wearing her work uniform, her face streaked with tears. When she saw him, her composure crumbled completely. "I don't know what to do," she sobbed. "They're saying she needs emergency surgery. Her heart valve is failing. The surgery costs over $200,000, and my insurance will only cover part of it. They want a deposit I don't have before they'll schedule it. I've been trying to call everyone I know, but no one has that kind of money." Nathan sat beside her and took her hand. "Tell me what she needs." A different kind of wealth through her tears, Claire explained what the doctors had told her. Mia needed an immediate valve replacement. Without it, she might not survive the month. The surgery was complex, requiring the best pediatric cardiac surgeon in the region. Even with insurance, Claire would be responsible for over $60,000 up front. Money she couldn't possibly access. "Been saving," Claire whispered, "but I only have $4,000. I called my bank about a loan, but with my credit and income, they laughed at me. I don't know what to do." "I can't lose her, Nathan. She's everything." Nathan pulled out his phone and made a call. "David, I need you to contact Seattle Children's Hospital immediately. Patient name is Mia Morgan. I want the best pediatric cardiac surgeon they have, and I'm covering all medical expenses." "Yes, all of them. Get it done now." He hung up and turned to Claire. "It's taken care of." Claire stared at him in shock. "Nathan, I can't let you do that. That's too much money." "Claire, look at me," Nathan said gently but firmly. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. What good is any of it if I can't help the people I care about?" "Let me do this, please. I'll pay you back," Claire insisted. "Every penny." It might take years, but I will. We'll figure that out later, Nathan said. Right now, all that matters is Mia getting the surgery she needs. The vigil of the surgery was scheduled for the next morning. Nathan called his office and cleared his schedule, something he had never done before. He stayed at the hospital with Claire through the night, bringing her food she couldn't eat. Coffee she nursed gratefully, and most importantly, his presence in those long hours of waiting. Claire talked about Mia in a way she never had before. The funny things she said, her dreams of studying ocean life, her bravery through endless medical appointments and treatments. She never complains, Claire said softly. Even when she's in pain, she smiles and tells me it's going to be okay. A 7-year-old shouldn't have to be that strong. She learned it from you, Nathan said. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Claire. You work 3 jobs, you never give up, and you still find joy in everyday moments. That's real wealth. Claire leaned her head on his shoulder, too exhausted to maintain the professional distance they had always kept. I was so angry when my husband left. I thought he took everything from me, but maybe he just made room for better things. When dawn broke, they took Mia into surgery. Nathan held Claire's hand as they waited, 5 hours that felt like 5 years. He found himself praying to a God he hadn't addressed since his parents died, making bargains and promises. Anything to help this little girl he had never met, but who meant everything to the woman beside him. The transformation. The surgeon emerged from the operating room with tired eyes but a smile. The surgery went perfectly. Mia is strong. She came through like a champion. Claire collapsed in relief, and Nathan caught her, holding her while she cried tears of gratitude and exhaustion. When they were finally allowed to see Mia in recovery, Nathan hung back, letting Claire have her moment. But the little girl, pale but alert, looked past her mother to the stranger in the doorway. "Are you Nathan?" she asked in a whisper. "Mom talks about you." Nathan approached the bed slowly. "I am. And you must be Mia. Your mom talks about you all the time." "She says you're her friend," Mia said. "Thank you for helping me." Nathan felt tears sting his eyes. "You're very welcome, Mia. I'm glad you're okay." Over the following weeks, as Mia recovered, Nathan visited the hospital daily. He brought books about marine life, stuffed sea otters, and most importantly, his time. He read to Mia, listened to her endless questions about everything, and found himself falling in love not just with Claire, but with the family she had created through courage and determination. One evening, after Mia had fallen asleep, Claire and Nathan sat in the hospital cafeteria over terrible coffee. "I need to tell you something," Nathan said. "These past months, knowing you and now Mia, you've changed my life. I built walls to protect myself from being hurt again, but all I did was lock myself away from everything that makes life worth living." Claire took his hand across the table. "I know what you mean. After my husband left, I was so focused on surviving that I forgot about living. You reminded me that it's okay to trust again, to hope for more than just getting through the day." "I'm falling in love with you, Claire," Nathan said simply. "I know the timing isn't perfect, and I know our lives are complicated, but I needed you to know." Claire's eyes filled with tears again, but these were different tears. "I'm falling in love with you too. I kept telling myself it was just gratitude, just friendship, but it's so much more than that." New beginnings. 6 months later, the Sterling mansion had truly become a home. Claire and Mia had moved into the guest wing, though Nathan was already planning renovations to create a perfect space for them. Mia's laughter echoed through hallways that had been silent for too long. Her artwork decorated the refrigerator in the gourmet kitchen. Her collection of sea otter books filled the library. Nathan had scaled back his work hours, realizing that building an empire meant nothing if he had no one to share it with. He and Claire had started a foundation to help families struggling with medical expenses. Turning his wealth into something that changed lives, Margaret watched the transformation with satisfaction. The lonely billionaire who had hidden behind technology and walls now spent his evenings reading stories to a 7-year-old, teaching her about the stars through his telescope, and planning family vacations to see the tide pools Claire had always dreamed of visiting. One evening, as they sat together on the terrace watching the sunset over Puget Sound, Mia between them chattering about her day at her new school. Nathan realized that the security camera incident that could have been a disaster had instead become the catalyst for everything good in his life. "What are you thinking about?" Claire asked, noticing his thoughtful expression. "I'm thinking about how sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes," Nathan said. "I'm thinking about how grateful I am that you're here." Claire squeezed his hand. "We're grateful too. You gave us more than financial help, Nathan. You gave us a family." Mia looked up at both of them with her gap-toothed smile. "Are we going to live here forever?" Nathan met Claire's eyes, seeing his own hope reflected there. "I hope so, Mia. I really hope so." As darkness fell over Seattle, the lights of the Sterling mansion glowed warm against the night sky. Inside, a billionaire who had learned that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. A single mother who had discovered that trusting again was worth the risk. And a little girl who had survived against the odds created the kind of family that isn't defined by blood but by love, choice, and second chances. The security cameras still monitored the property. But Nathan had learned that the most important things in life couldn't be captured on video or protected by technology. They could only be nurtured through courage, honesty, and the willingness to let down the walls that keep us isolated. In the end, the response that left everyone in tears wasn't just Nathan's generosity with his money. It was his generosity with his heart, his willingness to be vulnerable again, and his understanding that sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is simply showing up, staying present, and choosing love over fear,